Some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. And others, they make it happen. This very famous saying by Michael Jordan is quite apt for today's event. We have someone who's made it big in the field of entrepreneurship, who shall be addressing those who wish to make it big in this very field. Good morning to one and all present here. I, Pankhudi Saxena, Coordinator ESEL IIT Ropar, welcome you all to the second webinar of the talk series, Startup Yourself, on the topic, Before the Startup. With immense pride and pleasure, ESEL welcomes our guest speaker for today, founder and CEO Postman, Mr. Abhinav Asthana. Mr. Asthana is a Pilani graduate who has founded multiple ventures. He started working on his first startup, Grayscale Design, during his second year of undergraduate studies. He went on to develop the Teleport Me Panorama app in 2010, which at that time was the only app from India to be featured worldwide on the Play Store. In 2014, he set out to create a tool that would simplify API testing. And as this tool's usage exploded, he collaborated with his former colleagues, Mr. Ankit Sopti and Mr. Abhijit K. And this venture is the very famous, the talk of the town, Postman. It is only the fourth software as a service startup from India and the fastest among the four to have entered the Unicorn Club. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you for having me here.
Before we proceed, I would like to request Mr. J.K. Sharma, CEO, Technology Business Incubator Foundation, IIT Ropar, to say a few words. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to all of you. I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Nice to have you.
On behalf of IIT Ropar, I welcome our distinguished guest of the day, and I appreciate the efforts of our entrepreneurship cell, those who are doing wonderful and plus work even during the COVID. And without taking further any time, I will request the host to introduce the guest and initiate the talk.
Yes. I invite Mr. Abhinav sir to please share his experiences.
Okay, where would you like me to begin?
Yes, so we can begin with the very beginning of this journey, let's say. How you discovered your passion for software development or programming, the very start of it all.
Sure, yeah. So I actually learned programming, thanks to my parents who got a computer because my dad really liked to have a computer and program on one. So I think it was in sixth grade that we got our first computer. So I lived in small towns like in and around UP. So my dad was posted as a civil engineer in all these places. So it was always like hard to get hold of computers back then, I guess. So I was very excited, and he didn't want me to spend a lot of time gaming and wasting time. So I learned programming thanks to a combination of what was there in school, the books that he brought, and I just loved the experience. I liked the kind of feedback that you would get from a computer, working on a program. And I got on the web and started, building websites, started building applications kind of very early on. So it took some time, but like the computer kind of, pulled me in. So I started learning languages. I started doing some consulting work on online. And I always had a bunch of friends around me who were always very eager to join in. So and it was always like a fun experience. I didn't dislike studying as such, but it was always more fun to work on a computer. And I really liked then going back to school, and I ended up doing better in my computer classes. So all of that was very exciting at that time. There were very few people, kind of doing it, and it was just all new then. So I remember we would always go to Lucknow to, find out what are the books out there. I think there is there's a bookstore there in Hazratganj where we would like get a few books, and I would come back and kind of like study them and do something, and that kind of carried me through in a lot of different ways. So wasn't really like any formal program as such, and because of my dad's passion and kind of getting the latest computer, I also like pushed him to help me get more and more stuff for those things. I think all of those were very fun times, and thanks to my friends, my family who let me do all of this. I think the only problem at times was the flaky power supply and the internet. So as long as that was there, I was kind of hooked on to stuff.
Yeah. So coming on to the next question, let's talk more about your college life. You had been doing multiple projects, if I am not wrong. You started working on your first venture, which is grayscale design, even before you graduated. What were the benefits that this early start gave you, and how it prepared you for your journey ahead?
So Grayscale, was basically like a collaboration between a few of my friends there. So I entered college in BITS Pilani's Goa campus. And what I found out there was that I was not the only one who was passionate about programming and building stuff. There were like other friends who were equally interested and very talented. So we kind of got together, and there are always these projects that come up in college, right? You have to build a website for your tech fest or cultural fest. So it gets you some brownie points from seniors. So you're like always very excited. So we were like, yeah, we can do this, we can do that. So we just formed a venture. Like it wasn't really like a formal thing, but we wanted to give it like a studio sort of like image, like it's like some sort of like a professional studio where you get like great design, and we worked hard for it to kind of make that happen. So what Grayscale ended up doing was it offered web design services to people who wanted to build products or have their own websites, and this was in 2007. I guess you'll come to teleport me later, but one things that we were doing was just earning money in college, through these projects. So we did a website called letmeknow.in, which helped students get internships faster. I think it carried on, for a while. We designed all of our colleges like festival websites and stuff. We did our college magazine. We also worked on contract for a bunch of other firms. So it was, I think it gave us a wide berth of experience. And again, it was just a lot of fun. I guess like I was always finding some time to, not just formally study all the time. So it was just, a lot of fun. I think we made animations, we built websites, we built some applications, and it gave us a lot of experience in actually doing this stuff professionally. And money was good.
Yeah, sure. I think some of the audience members will definitely take tips on this, how to convert your normal projects into something big. Talking about your second venture, which is Teleport Me, it has had a whole lot of achievements, I must say. It was featured worldwide on the Play Store. Please share your experiences with that.
Yeah, so Teleport Me actually came out of another project that I did called Bits 360 in college. So the bunch of friends that I did Grayscale with, we also ended up creating this virtual tour for our campus. It allowed students and aspirants to do a virtual walkthrough of the BITS Goa campus, and then later it became, a walkthrough for all of the BITS campuses. Along with that, it also had a community online, a forum where people could ask questions and just know more about the BITS campuses. And at one point, anybody who was giving BITSAT was going to the website. So we found out that people liked both this virtual tour experience, very much like Google Street View, and they liked that it was their college. So, we saw a lot of parents who were excited about, having their children go there, write to us and say that, this made their experience a bit better, right? You don't know what's going to happen when you enter a college. So we actually did that by shooting, panoramas on our digital cams, and we had some software on our desktops to actually stitch those photos together to create a 360-degree experience. And we had to do that over and over and over again. So that project became very popular. But when I kind of left college, I met my now ex-co-founder Vineet, and we saw that there is a lot of potential in actually having this capability available on your phones, and smartphones were just kind of coming up. Nobody had built a panorama mode then, and we thought that a social panorama builder for the world could be a good thing. So we essentially converted that product or that project into a product where people could take panoramic images, put them on their phones, and share with everybody else. We were about 4 people, for a while, and honestly, was a big struggle. I think so. A bunch of us, basically declined job offers. I didn't end up doing a formal job after college. Like basically in my last year of college, I was just working on this, and we started the company in Noida. We were like 4 people, no furniture, whatever. We just kind of started, building this out. And fortunately, the product took off. Like people were excited about having panoramas on their phones, and they started downloading the app again, and they started sharing it. And we then kind of turned it into a startup. So we raised a seed round of money, about I think $500,000 back then. And I was the CTO of the company. I was responsible for the technology and the product. And the app got featured at that time on the Google Play Store, which actually resulted in a lot of downloads. So I think we had about 5 million, 6 million downloads back then on the Android Play Store. And we kind of, I think that kind of gave me at least an experience of building a complete product. And I learned that it is very different from doing a project where you have like an endless list of requirements, but for the product, you really have to ship and you have to satisfy your end users. So we had to do a lot of work. We had to do a lot of work on the back end of that application. We had to build an Android application, and we were very resource constrained. And until we, raised our seed round of money, we basically couldn't hire people as much as we wanted to. But after that, things started becoming better. So we moved to Bangalore. We got an office there, and we had a bunch of people working with us. So it was a fun journey, and I think the company is still actually active. I realized that that's not what I want to do. I think I'd spent 3 years there, and I was like, I probably want to do something else. So after the company was in a good place, I decided to move on. But it was a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. And now let's talk about the main talk of the town, and specifically about Postman. How was it all conceptualized, and how you build your team, Mr. Abhijit and Mr. Ankit?
Yeah, so Abhijit actually was an intern at Teleport Me. He was part of a batch of BIT students who joined us as part of an internship program, and I hope actually they had a good experience. But I think Abhijit he ended up joining me. So he was an intern there, and I did an internship through the BITS PS2 program at Yahoo in Bangalore, where I met Ankit. So that's how we kind of knew each other. And what we basically had in these shared experiences were that we were building all of these applications, and they were all using APIs. And APIs were pretty common, but everybody just assumed that they exist. And we kind of learned that working on APIs was very hard, and it required a lot of specialized coding that everybody had to do over and over again, and people would make a lot of mistakes when they did that. So when Ankit and I were at Yahoo, we realized that we would work on a project and the code would break because the API, we didn't use the API properly. So all of those experiences led me to kind of start Postman as a side project, and it was just like a weekend thing that I like doing. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to code something and see if it helps. And I built it out for myself, and it actually started adding a lot of value to my workflow as a developer. And what I learned was that it actually started helping out people around me, and it started helping out people on the in the world. And I put it up on the Chrome Web Store, and it started gaining more traction. People started recommending it, and I reached out to Ankit. I think about 2013. Like Ankit and I were in touch, but I reached out to him and said that, hey, this thing is like really seems to be interesting, right? Do you want to look at it and maybe something we could do together? So Ankit and I started working kind of informally and then more formally. And I had to, like Ankit already was a director in Bombay. And then we learned about Abhijit through another friend of mine who was also an intern at Teleport Me. So we kind of just had this random meeting, and we learned that Abhijit was in Bangalore too. So we pinged him, and Abhijit just said yes, like the moment we talked. So that's how we got the team together, and we had a working product, and it was getting adopted, and it was solving a problem that all of us had. And that's how basically Postman started.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very nice idea and a very nice concept to turn projects into a big thing. And now, one thing that I had in mind personally as well, how was Postman going to be different from its competitors? What novelty did Postman bring to the platform?
Yeah, I think now looking back, we can enumerate a lot of things that were different. At that time, we kind of did not care what was different or what was similar. I think we basically looked at, and still do, was what is the core problem that we were solving, and is it the best designed and the best solution kind of out there, and is our workflow actually getting better or not? So I think one key thing that I realized that a common misconception for developer tools was that developers will work with anything, and I learned that developers actually like well-designed products, they like well-designed tools, and we focused a lot on the design of the experience. We liked we really looked at like how people respond to certain changes in the interface and what people are saying. So kind of we try to bring in great technology and great design together, and we learned that people actually like that, and that's why they recommend the product to others. So kind of along with that, we started also discovering that not just developers, but other people also build APIs together, and they collaborate with each other. And that was kind of one fact that I think everybody just assumed again that happens, but we felt was unoptimized. So we started building Postman with the intent to build a collaborative product rather than just a developer tool. And that actually added a lot of value to everybody and also led to our business model. So we've kind of continued on these themes since then, and we focus on how people can be faster, how they can have a great experience, and then how can they work together more effectively. And we learned that competitors essentially focus on very narrow slices of the problem. They don't look at things more holistically. And I mean, I think one of the things that has happened since Postman has been out is that every competitor, before or after, has basically been, imitating our features and adding more things. I mean, nothing in the software world is unique as such, but it's, good validation that we are on the right track. So we just focus on the user, and a lot of other things follow.
Right. And what were the main challenges that you faced during the very initial days, apart from?
Everything from, I'd say, so I think I almost ran out of money in 2013. I basically had, I think, 6 months or 7 months of rent left in Bangalore, and we had to figure out a way to bootstrap the company. So I got some sponsorships, I got some consulting gigs. So I think one good thing that happened was that I met a very nice person who actually helped. I basically built another product for them, and it helped pay the bills for a while. And then I kind of figured out that we could have some sponsorship to help fund the project while we figure out like a business model around it. So there were those kind of monetary things that we had to kind of go through. I think I think outside of that, the biggest challenge was actually really getting great feedback about our business model. Like when I went out to people and I told them that, hey, I've been building this thing along with some friends of mine. Would you want to use it? And a lot of people basically said in India that that we would just build it ourselves. And it kind of created some doubt in our heads that if everybody's saying they're going to build it ourselves, then is there some long-term value here? So kind of what we discovered was that while people say they're going to build it out themselves, they actually don't do it. They have other things to do, and we had to really go and find out our target market and really understand who is the right audience for both our free product as well as our paid product, and how can we talk to them. So we basically did that online. We ran support for Postman for a while. We basically talk to anybody who would be willing to talk to us and really understand what their pain points were. And doing that kind of for us sitting out of Bangalore was hard. It was not like you could walk to a cafe and talk to people, which is much easier if you're in a tech hub. And of course, Bangalore is much more kind of it's exploded like crazy. But at that time, it was hard. So I think those are some initial struggles. Recruiting and getting great people who are aligned with the mission of the company has always been challenging. It took us a long time to actually get to our fourth hire, the fifth hire. I think for a while we were like, we might not be able to hire anyone at all. Like, we're just not finding the right people to join us. Of course, all of that kind of changed over time. So I think those are things that I could recall. I think I've been fortunate to have like a team that has been very focused on building a great product, and building a great product helps get great customers and users. So we have been fortunate in that regard, and I think getting great people and talking to our customers at scale continues to be our biggest challenge.
Yeah. So challenges have probably made Postman what it is today. And how would you summarize Postman's growth till today, considering all the ups and downs that you've had with Postman?
So Postman is now I'd say the largest community of API developers kind of on the planet. We have more than 12 million users on the platform across 500,000 companies. It's the de facto standard for everything related to APIs. And growth continues to grow. Like the platform continues to grow really, really fast. We, I think, started with just a version of an app on the Chrome Web Store, but today we are a full-fledged platform available on all operating systems. We offer cloud-based services for the entire stack of services that APIs need, and we service customers from individual developers to the Fortune 500s. And we have adoption, in more than 98% of the Fortune 500 there. So it's also the highest rated product in almost every survey online, and our customers and users love us. We have seen a great growth in community, both online as well as offline. We, I think, would be in the third iteration of our conference, user conference that we hold in the Bay Area. And we also get thousands of people registering for our webinars, in our online community. So it's been great. We have now, with respect to our company, we have 2 hubs, one in San Francisco, one in Bangalore. We have employees in more than 7 countries, and I think we are about to hit 280 employees distributed all across the world.
Yes. And what about the future plans of Postman, if you could share, because we want to hear about that.
So, one of the key beliefs is that modern software is built on APIs, and every piece of software today even software that we're using on this call is built on top of APIs. So this growth is just going to continue. And our vision is that Postman is going to help developers really excel at building, this massive explosion of APIs in the coming days. We continue to focus on our users. We not only see developers today, but we also see quality engineers, product managers, people essentially in all segments of what we'd call like knowledge workers, being the users of APIs. And to meet that demand, there are hundreds of thousands and millions of companies essentially going to be building APIs. So I feel that this is a very important moment, for technology today, and we are fortunate to kind of be in the center and kind of seeing all of this happen. So we will continue shipping more features on our platform to support this growth for our developers. We are growing in terms of our headcount. I think we are on track to doubling this year. Every year we have essentially doubled headcount and kind of created jobs across the US and India and now kind of across the world. Our community continues to grow. Before COVID, we had a Galaxy tour that was planned across 40 cities around the world, but we kind of pulled it back, and now we are doing like online, webinars. So there's a lot coming, and I think one thing I would add is that we are also focused very much on the student community. So we have a student program that is taking shape. We are partnering with the top universities in the world. And our mission is to make sure that students can leverage the power of APIs and platforms as quickly as possible. And our team is actually providing training and mentorship as well as tools and services for students, whether they're in computer science or not, across the world. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes, and we wish you all the very best for Postman in future, for all those plans that you have. We have a very big number of aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience today, and we would want you to address some common doubts that every entrepreneur has before starting a venture on their own. So we begin by saying that how much do you value the novelty of an idea in determining the success of a startup? You have had 3 ventures, 3 very successful ventures. So you may be the right person to answer this.
So I think a lot of entrepreneurs focus on that aspect, which sometimes I think is not really that valuable. I think it actually can lead you astray. People try to think of very new ideas that I will think of something new that nobody has ever thought of. And the problem with that is you end up you end up not having a market for that idea, right? So the way I look at it is, like your idea of solving a problem can be new, but the problem should exist in the world. Right? You can't have a novel idea for a novel problem because the problem is not going to be shared for a startup. I think novel problems probably belong to like science and research, and startups are probably not the vehicle to go after those. But I would really encourage every entrepreneur to look at, what are the problems that you are experiencing and what are the problems that you are seeing in your community and what you can empathize with. Because that's what I think the biggest leverage of an entrepreneur is. Like at that point in time, your experience and your ability to see that is something that nobody can see. And people get too fixated on having a unique idea, like I'm going to solve this X problem that has already been solved in a new way. It typically does not work because you're too far away from actually finding a novel solution. So I would separate problem, idea, solution, like in these 3 buckets. And my compass is always to look at a problem. I think Ankit, my co-founder, said it in another talk, like fall in love with the problem and not with the solution. And if you're in love with the problem, then you can actually get through the entrepreneurial grind for a very long time. Like for us, it's been 8 years, 9 years, I think. We still feel like we still haven't solved that core problem well, and it still motivates us.
Yes. And I think this is something that all the audience would like to take note of. Now, coming on to the next question. How important is it to figure out the right persons in your venture?
I think that's probably like the most important thing for a venture. I think getting people with complementary skill sets, and even more than that, people you can trust to work with you through like ups and downs, I think is extremely important, and I think actually makes or breaks a startup. I think most startups fail because of two reasons. Either they run out of money or they have people issues, which is because of which they run out of money later. So if you have a great team which is invested in you, and you have a frank dialogue with them, and you're all aligned on the same problem that you're trying to solve, and and it doesn't mean, by the way, like deferring to everyone can't be the CEO of a company, everyone can't be running technology of a company. So you have to really have well-defined roles which are complementary roles and complementary skill sets, and people should respect each other. I think in my experience, I've seen that places and projects where it did not work was because of that gap, and where it did work, and I've been fortunate to have Ankit and Abhijit as my co-founders, and even my initial team, and some of the people have been with Postman for more than like they've been there with us since the beginning. Like we trust them so much that they can run entire year-long projects without us even having to look at it. So I think that level of trust is what you need to really get a startup through so many struggles that you just have. You have to raise money, you have to hire people, you have to build a product, you have to sell the product. So you need that team to be intact. So I would raise it to keep it very, very high on the list.
Yes. An amazing advice again. Now, next question is, what are the skills or the qualities that you feel are the must-haves for budding entrepreneurs?
I think having perseverance and grit goes without kind of saying that if you are in it for the short term, then you will probably tap out. I think it's very important to have that. I think you need some level of decision making, ability to see when the market is right, and be able to actually judge your own efforts without being too sometimes people get too invested in what they're doing, and they really don't know when to actually change course and when something is not working. So I think good entrepreneurs are able to see that and able to correct the course. I think one key capability is actually explaining what their vision is very clearly, and articulating that, and actually informing others and having other people buy into that vision is extremely important. That helps you hire, that helps you fundraise, that helps you tell that story to the press. I think when I was building Postman, you heard that you'd have to tell the same story like 1,000 times in a month, and I was like, no, nobody does that, but you actually have to do that, right? So I think all of those things are very, very important. And I think great entrepreneurs, right, are related to the previous thing I said, right, like are really passionate about solving for what they believe is the key problem that they're trying to solve. I think that separates out. Environmental factors change, people learn to navigate those, but I think great entrepreneurs are just very focused on that.
Okay, and now we move on to the next question, and this will be, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced in this journey and how you dealt with it? Something that you felt that when you overcame and you said that, yes, this is an achievement? What was that moment for you?
I think I feel as a moment, I think setting up an office in the US was extremely hard, just because of it kind of felt like at times restarting the company. So we took some time, and we had to hire people here. We had to learn how the ecosystem works here, and we had great support from our investors. But really, at least for us, coming here, ensuring that the company works as one company across different cultures, across different time zones, can have shared decision making was extremely, critical and hard for us. Like we felt like we want to create a global category leader company, and we want to be close to our customers. And if we don't do that, we'll miss out on technology waves that keep on coming. So it was very critical for us to be here, but also doing that was extremely hard, logistically, and just mentally, emotionally for everybody involved. Like everything just flips. Immediately you have 12-hour time zone differences. People don't know what they're doing. So we had to really, kind of rebuild the company in a way to be able to work across, US and India, especially in its very early days. When you're bigger, you can do that. You have companies who are bigger, have hundreds of employees, and they can see the offices in a different way. But in an early stage, when we were like less than 30 people, we had to do that, and that was extremely hard.
Yes, very right. And now, if you could share some of your important learnings from this from this journey in this field of entrepreneurship.
I feel I think my biggest takeaway has been that maintaining focus over a long period of time and ensuring that aspects of fundraising and company building, and we have raised now 3 rounds of funding. We've I think north of now 200 million now. So we've kind of gone through several fundraising rounds. So we kind of know that that's always kind of a challenge. But kind of my takeaway was that while all of this is happening, keeping your focus on as a company and continuing to have that focus, deliver a great product like day after day, week after week, is extremely challenging. And I think I would encourage founders to kind of have that focus and not get too swayed by other mechanics of startup building. I think sometimes people get carried away by press. Sometimes there are lots of things that actually take your attention. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's external. And I think the things that we try to do the hardest is ensuring that we stay focused, we stay the course, and that's what actually customers care about. They really don't care about other things. Sometimes maybe once in a while somebody will read your press release about how much funding you raised and whatnot, but eventually they care about product. And for product building companies, it's very important to stay focused.
Yes, everyone needs to definitely take note of this. This is probably one of the biggest things that you can ever gain. Now, talking about the present ongoing scenario, the COVID-19. No talk can get over without discussing that. How has your team coped up with the current situation?
Yeah, these are hard times, and I wish anybody who's seeing this or is on the call is staying safe. And I think these are unprecedented times. I don't think anybody was prepared for that. But I think a few months in, I think we have learned what at least how to deal with it, at least in our immediate surroundings. So at least for us, what we saw was that some of the processes that we had built in remote working and hiring and documenting things out worked really well. Our effort in actually building the company in the US, and actually we have a distributed team now, as I said, across more than 7 countries, helped a lot. We communicated online, we wrote stuff down. So all of that helped in this transition to full remote working during COVID. We we participated in community efforts by donating to nonprofits. We gave time to our employees to recover and rejuvenate. We also encourage people to take breaks when they can, and the net effect of that was that we could actually continue servicing our customers, and we learned that people actually want more and more of Postman. They are staying home, maybe they're more productive, and I think for the economy as a whole, we learned that everybody is going to be building even more applications as more technology driven commerce takes place in the world. So in a way, from a product and company perspective, we see that there is a long tail benefit. But I think from a healthcare perspective, we just want, I think all of us want the pandemic to be over, hopefully with, our families and people we know stay safe. So, we're still, I think, working through it, and I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic about the future.
Yes, optimism is another big quality. Now the house is open for discussion. Please type in your queries in the chat box if you already haven't. We have time constraints, but we'll try to take up as many questions as possible. So just a minute, and I'll be going through the questions. Yes. So Siddharth asks, what is the role of in-depth knowledge of a founder in a particular field with the success of a startup, according to you?
I think in-depth knowledge, if you are in a domain-specific area, is extremely important. If you're doing something in deep technology and you're really and your product requires that from the outset, then I think that is definitely important. However, I would say, one, because if you as a founder is focused on solving a problem and building a product, then your experience with the problem and your ability to acquire knowledge can plays a very, very big role, which you anyway need in subsequent iterations of the company or the product. And typically, I think if you know the problem really well and what you want to build a company for, you can assemble experts around you who can be part of your company and help you, really complement your abilities in that way. I think typically where most people go wrong is that they hire really, really smart people but don't really listen to their opinions. So I think that's one way to kind of solve for that. But yeah, I think in our case, like I wasn't an expert on APIs to begin with, but over the last 8 years, I've been kind of living and breathing this space, and sometimes it helps. Sometimes if you are not biased by whatever has been done before, you end up doing new things that nobody thought of, and that actually works in your favor. So it's in-depth knowledge is both a blessing and a curse at times.
Yes. Next question is by Ms. Meghna Bhandari. Startups is all about taking risks. So how do you take that leap of faith? What all things do you need to plan before taking that leap of faith?
So I think at least my okay, the way I would answer this, right? Like in the world of business, right? Like nobody gives you points for how much risk you took, right? Like everybody like looks at like what was the solution at the end of the day. So first of all, I think I would encourage everyone to think in terms of I used to when I came out of college, I was like, I don't need to eat, I don't need to sleep. I'm just going to code all day, and I'm just going to build out whatever it takes, right? And whatever it takes mentality actually like burns you out. So my foundation is that people should actually have a basic steady source of income which does not require like dependency from others. You should make sure if your family and they are well covered. Like it could be a bumpy ride, and you should ensure that they are healthy and happy. I think beyond that, I feel it is really up to you as a founder to optimize and figure out how to build your team and how to gain certain skills. And I think there are ways to de-risk a startup, which is building minimum viable products, really trying out ideas, really doing the hard work in the beginning of talking to people, without even going around and building a product. So all of that data and insights actually help you take calculated risks, and through that you can then create this kind of flywheel of raising capital, building product, getting customers, which helps you take bigger and bigger bets as you go on. I think things often go wrong when people really oversell an idea which they themselves kind of don't believe in, and it creates a reverse cycle where things don't go according to plan, and that's when the risk seems too big. So yeah, I mean, my simple advice would be like, take care of yourself and your family first, and make sure that they are in it with you. And if you're doing it alone, make sure that you are healthy. Like sleep well, eat well, and stay healthy. And after that, then go and build your product.
Yes. So moving on to the next question. We have a question by Mr. Harvinder Kumar Solanki. In the primitive stages of a startup, founders usually face a lot of rejections and negativity from naysayers. How do you keep yourself motivated in the struggling phase of your startups?
So there are two kinds of people who can be negative, right? So there are often people who don't believe in your idea. Sometimes it's investors, and sometimes it's friends or people that and I think it really, like, the interesting thing, by the way, is users of products or customers of products really actually are not negative at all. They will just shrug their shoulder and be like, well tried. Like, in my experience, nobody actually tells you that why did you build this, because they know that you built this thing. So typically negative feedback comes from people who really have an opinion for opinion's sake, and I would typically ignore it. If it's investors, then really finding out why they're saying that, and is that aligned with your worldview. If it's not aligned with your worldview, then maybe they're wrong, and that's your job as an entrepreneur to just carry the torch forward. And however, if it's your customer or if it's your user, then I think there is something always there when people reject your product. I think that is when you should really dig in and ask them, why exactly are you saying that, as much as you can. And I think that actually tells people a lot about what they could do better. So we actually looked at negative feedback in the beginning, and as I said, right, like, we also learned that people were saying that, hey, we're just going to build it ourselves. But we learned that people actually don't build it themselves, right? Like, and we just carried on. So I think that's one way to kind of counter that. In more formal setups, defining your target segment, who you want to sell to, who do you want to market to, are really important ways to zero in on people who would actually care. So what is the community of people that you actually want to have your product be adopted in, is a better way than just going out to everyone and saying that, hey, I'm building this stuff. Like, we had this Facebook test that we did with Postman, that we are not going to post on Facebook that we are building Postman, because our friends really don't care about Postman, and their likes or dislikes doesn't matter. Like, we will actually tell to developers who are building this, and we'll see what they say. And the funny thing has been that a lot of my family and a lot of my friends actually ping me now that they're using Postman. So it kind of turns around. So I think and then I think on the question of motivation, right, like, your co-founders and your team would help you a lot. I think people don't share their struggles with their team early enough, and I think a great team which has trust with each other can keep themselves motivated. You don't have to carry this burden on your shoulders alone.
Yes, coping up with negativity is also something that The youth needs to know these days. Another very great advice, I would say. Next question is by Mr. Jitendra Shukla. What steps should the person take when he gets an idea, and how to overcome the difficulties faced during the starting of the business?
I think really writing down your idea and articulating, why that is relevant for the world will help a lot. I think if you can prove out your idea with a section of customers, or building a prototype yourself, or with the help of people that you can either hire. We always ensured that we actually, even if whoever we were getting work from, we actually pay them well. So if you kind of do that, then it helps actually build people around you who are willing to kind of help you. So I think really for us, what helped us was, taking a finished product for opinions to people, rather than saying we're going to solve a problem, in the future for you. Showing investors that this is what we have, rather than this is what we are going to build, helped us raise money faster. So I think those things really help. Like the more you can push that, depending on which product you're building, the more you can overcome those difficulties. And there's no magic trick to it. It's a struggle from day one. And I think, as I said earlier in the talk, like having a great team comes first. Identifying the right problem, and as much as you can build up the product before going to raise money, would help. I think one area that I think somebody gave me that advice right a while ago, like it helps to be nice, to overcome difficulties. Like it's hard to be nice when you have so many problems facing your business, but it helps to be actually being nice and being helpful to other people actually gets you a lot of help in return, which I've seen work really well. Like we had relationships going back a few years that came in useful way later, and as we were working through our network, it helped to actually be helpful in return, and helped us solve problems at a later date when from people when we didn't expect to get any help.
Yes, definitely. And moving on to the next question, we have Mr. Yogesh Chhabra, who asks, while building Postman, was there a time when you thought this has been a mistake, it's not going to work out? Or were you always confident with what you were doing? How did you come out of it? And he says that he uses Postman daily.
That's great. Thank you for being a user of the product. So I think with Postman, we try to fail in small amounts, is what we like to kind of say, that we try to run like a lot of experiments. We try a lot of ideas, and we ensure that we iterate faster. Like that's at least our philosophy. We don't wait for like 1 year to build a product, and typically the failure rate of products is very high. It takes, I think, 80-90% of products fail in the market. So we learned that it is better to keep your while your ambition could be very big, your iteration cycles could be small. And in those small cycles, I've wondered at times, whether this feature is going to work or that capability is going to work out or not. And over a very long period of time, we have just been more right than wrong. So in critical changes, when we are adding something new to our business model, when we are changing the platform in which the product runs, those have been kind of nerve-wracking times. But as I said, try to fail in small amounts.
Now we have time constraints, so we can take up at max 2 questions now. Let me see who is the lucky question. Which is the lucky question. Yes. So Mr. Suraj Khan Mandotia, who's asking, on a more general level, why should anyone go through the pains of starting up when one can live a much easier and economically rich life?
So why should you start up when you can have an alternate? That's it's not for everyone. Honestly, like I think most entrepreneurs at times, like why am I doing this again? They kind of have that phase. But I think I kind of wondered about this, right? And I had this actually point in life in 2013 when I was like debating, why don't I take up a job, and why even go through this process again? And I kind of felt like I'm just a kind of a person who likes building stuff and likes ownership of that of a product or a vision. And I think once you get a taste of it, it's just kind of no going back. You're just like corrupted for life. And I think, once you kind of, see that magic moment of building something, and, like in this call, like, I think the previous person who asked the question used this Postman, that just gives me the same kick as like 8 years ago. So I think monetary rewards kind of come, I've seen them to come out later, and after a certain point in time, like monetary rewards become less valuable. And I think that is the kind of, in a way, drug that entrepreneurs like a lot. So there is, it just depends, and sometimes there is, I think the only point at which I would advise anybody to pick, if you're in the wrong market with the wrong product or something's not going right, it's actually better to take up a job. It's not, you should not like try to push a boulder up the hill like for just proving that you're an entrepreneur. Like it doesn't matter. So I think at that time you should get a great job, settle in, take care of family, friends, relatives, and work hard there. And if you still find like you want to have a great problem to solve for, building a startup is again worth it. I think it is, like, I personally feel that having more entrepreneurs is great for everybody. It's great for communities. It's great for countries. It creates more jobs. It creates innovation. And I think what has happened in India recently is that students would want to immigrate out of India like right away, and now they're staying in India and working for companies to create a better economy, create better products for markets there. And I think generally there should be more entrepreneurs, in every place.
Yes. One last question, and it's a very interesting one, I guess, from the CSE students of IIT Ropar. If you were to start a startup now, which problems would you look for solving in the technical domain?
I think we see so many things in Postman that we still have to solve for. So like, my mind is still totally like, glued on that. I think, which problems would I like to solve? Like I made this list in 2013, like when I quit Telport, like there was like this list of 25 things that I wanted to do, and Postman was like one of them. And there were like tools that I wanted to build for designers because I was like designing apps then. Today, I think, I don't know, like there is just so much good technology being built out. Like I feel like, people have already taken so many ideas. I think within the problem set of APIs, of course, we have a lot of problems. But if I were to start another thing, I will just give a very lame answer. So maybe, I'll share with those students maybe like top 5 list of things that I would like to have.
Yes, definitely. It requires a lot of research, I suppose, to find an idea that will work.
Okay. Swapnev, this is J.K. Sharma. I am CEO of IIT Ropar Technology Business Incubator. And thank you very much for sharing a wonderful talk to our students. We are like a newborn baby in the startup ecosystem, because startup activity started just 1.5 years ago. And exactly it will take a leap in the next 6 months, because we have received our grant, sanction letter of a grant from DST. And so once again, thank you from my side. And on behalf of IIT Ropar TBIF, I extend my gratitude to you for accepting this invite of ESL and being with us on today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your words. We come to the end of this session, and we'd like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to Abhinav, sir, for sparing his valuable time and enlightening the audience with his words of wisdom. So you are a role model for many budding entrepreneurs. It includes me as well, I must say. I'm sure the attendees have gained a lot from your experiences. Thank you once again from the entire team of eCell and the IIT Ropar fraternity. We wish you all the very best for your upcoming plans and looking forward to hosting you once again in our new campus, hopefully.
Thank you so much for having me, Pankaj. Right.
So,
all right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.